we'll go ahead and get started. It's 11:01, perfect time to get going on the week of Thanksgiving. And I'll go ahead and let me close some of this out. So do this. Hold on. First question of the week, since it's Thanksgiving week, pumpkin spice lattes, overrated, underrated? You could either put a thumbs up in the chat or put it on your camera, thumbs up or thumbs down. Pumpkin spice latte, overrated or underrated? Any strong opinions on that? Anyone indulging in that this week? Everyone's probably really busy working. Underrated. I'm with you. I'm with you. Like they overdid the pumpkin spice latte now, so it's not what it was. So, um, well, very cool, very cool. Let's go ahead. We'll get started on, and I'm going to be able to share my screen. And for y'all who don't know me, my name is Kelly Chancy. I'm the team leader at the Buckhead office, the amazing Buckhead office, where we're enjoying our time right here. So, yeah, I agree. Thumbs down, thumbs down. Pumpkin spice latte, overrated, underrated. Right now, it's like it's overrated. So little thumbs down. That's what I'm seeing the consensus say. So. All right, let me go ahead. Let's look at this past week's stats. We'll go ahead and share that. And let me minimize this. So I'll go ahead and scroll us over. Let's keep us looking at Fulton County. And then y'all chime in. I want to hear your opinions. Just looking week over week. This is a challenging week, I think, if you're listing property, just because most people start leaving town. They say the busiest day of travel is on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So, but just interestingly enough, let's look. This past week, how many actives? This is Fulton County, active under contracts, your pendings. Any ahas, thoughts on any of this from our wonderful audience? And feel free to just unmute yourself. Any brave soul? Kind of what I'm seeing here is, I mean, we've been saying this word, at least here at the Buckhead office, quite a bit, that, I mean, it's looking relatively just steady and stable. It's expected this, we're probably going to see after Thanksgiving a big closing period of time. I know we're seeing that here. I like looking same week over same week in a sense. So yeah, maybe a little lighter, but it's interesting. I'm active under contract, steady, relatively steady, pending's relatively steady. So let's go ahead. Let's hit decab real quick. Looking at this, anyone have any ahas looking at and even comparing what we saw Fulton to DeKalb? Any ahas?
It's very similar to Fulton's.
Yeah. Hubert, I would agree. Fulton and DeKalb looks fairly similar. Even, just down a little act. This makes sense. We're going into holiday week. And then the closings make sense. We're going into holiday week, but the pendings and actives seem similar. So let's pull out, let's say Cobb County. Again, any ahas from Cobb County? It's steady. That may be our word for the moment, which is, and if we have slight changes, and we can look at these graphs, here it just shows how the slight movement throughout the weeks, but it's, they're kind of all trending relatively similar direction. So we'll look at really quickly and then we'll move on to the good news. So if you want to look at these graphs, actives are the blues, reds are the pendings, yellow are the closes. So, and it should make sense that red should be a little higher than you'll see the yellows because it's what brings into closings. But this is Gwinnett County. Any ahas? I mean, looking across the board, I'd say the same thing, relatively steady. I mean, this was, and I would want to look into that a little more, but that's a real number, a typo. But that being said, it looks relatively, we're having a real steady market, which is good to see. So,
It looks like
um,
those two lines are inverted, just based on what those numbers are, where it should be 63 active under contract or 14 coming soon, maybe. Just looking at
it
what.
could be. It could be. That's what Mika, thank you. Because I was looking at that go, that looks like a typo. I think you're right. You probably drawing really good conclusions there. So,
And
but
one
with
thing I
that
will
said, that
say,
makes it look steady. Go ahead, Mika.
one thing I would say is, although Cobb was still on trend, there was a slight uptick. So I think that would speak to what buyer interest is in Cobb County and what makes that different, because everybody else was on trend but down, but Cobb had a little bit of an uptick. And I know I went under contract in Cobb County last week, and I had a multiple offer situation. So I don't
Wow.
know what's going on over there.
In which part of Cobb is that and what price point?
It was East Cobb, and it was at the 600 price point.
Okay. Which is honestly for East Cobb, that's still on a lower end price point. That's probably more, that's probably just a little under the average price point for East Cobb or thereabouts. So, okay. So
Yeah,
let's look at that.
things are interesting out there, and there are quite a few price decreases that are happening. Also, we expected that, but the price decreases I'm seeing. I have a client in Austell who's been watching the property, and this morning they announced a $20,000 price decrease on a house that was listed at $330,000. So
Wow.
it's some significant movement in the marketplace right now on some of these homes.
And so saying that, Mika, what's the opportunity right now for buyers? Um, what's because if we're seeing price increases, what's opportunity? What's the phone call we can make to some of our buyers right
That's,
now?
that's exactly what I'm saying to people, that it's an opportunity market. Depending on where we're looking and what we're looking for, it's an opportunity to get some closing costs paid, to negotiate on price. Everything I'm writing offers on pretty much has been an opportunity for negotiation, except for that multiple offer, but it's definitely opportunity for negotiation out there. So get in now before interest rates do whatever they're going to do, to be able to have some say in what's
Mm-hmm.
happening in your offer, in comparison to what may happen if interest rates do drop or things do change in the marketplace.
Right. I would agree. So for anybody who needs some motivation, I mean, this is a time of year people who want to close, you probably are seeing those price reductions. You get those closing costs. So there's opportunity. You can still close by the end of the year. Certainly 30-day closings are quite normal, and we have lenders that do them even faster. So you got time to get your buyers, or even in this case, your sellers under contract, and still close by the end of the year. So any other ahas on this? All right. So I want to share what I feel is incredibly exciting news, and I would love some of our guests on the Zoom call today to kind of share if they've heard the news, thoughts and feelings towards it. But let me go ahead and close this out. So how many of you have already heard that Mark Willis will be taking over as the CEO? They announced this last week, and he is coming back having been the CEO during a big growth period within KW's history, president from 2002 to 2005, and then for a decade, from 5 through 2015. Who's heard this? Thoughts, feelings? Anyone has heard Mark Willis speak? Know of him? Was
I
anyone around during the time Mark Willis
yeah,
was the CEO of KW?
I wasn't around when he was the CEO. I joined shortly after, but I've heard nothing but good about him and his talents, especially in this uncertain time of real estate in KW.
Yes. Yes, I would agree. He's very much talented. Vicky, did you have your hand up?
I just wanted to
Anyone
say
else?
that I was around when he was here for, it's at Keller Williams. So it's
Yeah,
exciting that he's back. And yeah, I agree, kind of offers some insight and confidence, especially with what's going on.
I would agree. I would agree. Mika.
I wasn't around when he was here or at the end of the tenure, not sure, but I've heard agents who've been around say that things may get back to quote unquote normal, or some of the things that we have seen in the past with Keller Williams. And I don't know what that looks like because I came in 2017, but they were speaking to what we were built on, some of those principles. We may see some of those things coming back. So not to say they
Mhm.
away, but the market made things a little screwy. So
Correct. It's been some interesting times that we've gone through the past, many years. Um, so I got started, and Mark Willis was the CEO. So when I got licensed, and then he navigated us through the Great Recession. And for those of us who are part of the Great Recession, you understand that was obviously extremely challenging times in the real estate market, certainly as real estate agents, but even certainly the overall consumers as well. Then the aftermath, the recovery from that to the he kind of navigated through us and then stepped away. I had the real privilege of hearing him in person. Let me say, this is probably like a month ago, as a member of the Live Luxury community here. That's part of our Keller Williams luxury community. If you qualify, you definitely want to be a member of Live Luxury. And I walked away with, I want to say, at least 3 pages of notes of what he says. He's in my view, a true thought leader. He is one that knows how to look at something, interpret it, and also say it quite simply so the rest of us know how to go out there and implement. Um, I think we have a great leadership team at KW right now, even with Mark King still there, Jason Abrams still there, all the others, but him stepping in because Gary had been CEO and now he's stepping in as that. I'm thrilled for where we're going as part of KW. I think that is headline newsworthy. Mark kind of shared his journey, but he wasn't. He's just an entrepreneur, and when you're an entrepreneur, you're always investing in things, creating things, doing a bunch of things. So he did a lot of that during his spare time, which I think it's kind of cool that he's coming back with fresh eyes and new experiences that he can bring to us. So I really highlight to y'all, if you're not signed up for Family Reunion, you want to do that. Not only do we have Mark Willis be there, obviously we got Mel Robbins and Tony Robbins, but I really feel you're going to hear to what you said, Mika, the things of old, valuing what the KW culture is, the training and coaching of our agents, just taking another level, being the true innovators and leaders within the real estate world. Remembering that agents, what we do every day is important, and making sure that what we do is recognized. So those are I think the things that he's just continuously highlights. And he even said this, he wants to see more women leaders. So I thought that was cool. He said that we bring an element that's highly important. And so he's a believer in all opportunity. So any other thoughts on this before we get on to a few other headlines? All right. So let me kind of go and share. So going back, let's share here. Love the good news of Mark Willis coming back. So interesting, we've all posted this. We've all been saying it. Now we have CNBC saying it. So the past few weeks, we've kind of noticed that mortgage rates, and the term I've been using, is easing. So they're not really like dropping lots, but they're easing a little bit, which is what we've needed. And so we were in 8.25, 8.5. Now we're around anywhere 7.5 to 775. So easing over the past month. And it says that mortgage demands climbs to its highest level in 5 weeks after the interest rate moves lower. And so everything that we've said hypothetically actually is proving to be true, that buyers are starting to come out more once interest rates come down. So it just kind of shows that the affordability issue of interest rates comes down, opens it up, but also people understand, it just makes it easier for them. So has anyone else seen this happening in their own business? More calls, more things as interest rates kind of eased over the past month?
I haven't been getting more calls, but I've been working to make more calls to let folks know what's happening in order to encourage them to make a move.
Yes. So this is another, when you see that, like we had a great buyer's agent panel the other day at our team meeting, and when you have those buyers who are on the edge, you watch these interest rates, you're letting them know on a weekly basis, and it may be the time that they need to start, getting back into gear and active. So, but Cuba, you're saying you're making the calls, telling them that. And then anyone else on how we're getting our that whole thought process that we may actually continue to see prices go higher if we get interest rates drop, more demand comes out there. So anyone like seeing that and actually have real data to show it? So all right, well then let me go ahead and show you another thing. It kind of goes a little bit in line. And this, and by the way, I am not using anything from Inman after they've decided to bring in certain guest speakers. So everything else is from other news sources. So housing starts continued gains in October after a huge September jump. So even with this is talking about the builders. So we have the way we have always discussed a way to get out of our low inventory is with builders continuing to build. So builders started in September. That's actually a really great time for builders to start because when you think of the sales cycle, that puts them completion date next summer. But they're continuing to still build. And but it's interesting to see. Let me see if I didn't scroll past that. Nope. When you look, here we go. You're looking at year over year, single family or multifamily, 22% lower in the Northeast. But it's been lower, but it's never like we're still the South. There's value being within the South. And then they continue to stay here despite the higher interest rates, the lack of existing home inventory supported demand for new construction in the fall. And builders are continuing to grapple with their elevated costs but concerns with regulation, but yet they're still continuing to build. That's the big summary. And to me, it's exciting news. And I definitely feel like there's opportunity right now. If there's any standing inventory for builders, that's an opportunity to go get your buyers in. So we have some good news on the building front as well. So, and then next, again, talking, this also came out. I'm gonna make sure this video doesn't play for y'all. But on the other side, that U.S. renters remain still burdened. And then it goes into that they are still at about 30% built right now. Most renters pay about 30% of their income to get into the apartment, around 30.8%, about 31%. So whoops, and that just shut off. Timed out. That's okay. So that being said, we can sit there and take a look at going through what's going on with the cost of rent, that if it's taking 30% of their income just to rent, can we somehow find a way to get them into a house or some kind of a home that will be a similar, even if its ratio is a little bit higher because they have tax deductions? Is there opportunity right now? Has anyone, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the sharing. With that said, regarding the rental, anyone else seeing people realizing this is time to get out of the rent and or has been marketing toward that?
I read an article recently about such a huge volume of more rentals coming on the market that now the management companies are offering these specialties to try to get them filled, that there's a glut. So it's going to be, might be harder to compete with a good deal if they are offering those, is my thinking.
If they start offering, the landlords are starting to offer rent incentives? Correct.
And lower rents, and the rents are coming down a little even, I think I read. So.
And so do we feel that it's coming down significant enough or just enough, or what have you been seeing?
I think it's kind of twofold. Of course, as agents, if we can transition someone from a rental into a purchase scenario, that's always preferred for everyone, that may not be an option from a credit standpoint or cash on hand or DTI issue. And so for those folks, they need to rent. At the same time, I would say as agents, if we take the wise advice of Gary Keller and say, we're also investors, this is also an opportunity for us to own rentals. And so I have a rental down in East Point, and I put it on about 2 weeks ago, and they moved in last week, and I raised the rent by $50. And so, depending on what scenario you come from or like how you look at it, I mean, as agents, we have opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I just found it very fascinating. I'm sure as they have built a lot of apartments all over the metro. I'm sure they're competing against one another. I found it very interesting that it's taking just say around 31% of their income just to pay rent, when traditionally we would say that's what you would do for your own mortgage. The healthy margin is around 30, maybe 33. I know some of them will prove you up to like 40, 45 of your debt to income ratios. So when it's very apples to apples scenarios, is it really always in their best interest, short term, if they plan to not live in the area for a long period of time, but is it all in that person's best interest to remain as a renter, receive no tax benefits, not build equity for themselves? So to that point, I like the math and even comparing that to go, if you're paying that now in rent, it's not that much different to go do it, to buy a home. And then to Hubert's point, and if owning rentals is an investment opportunity. So I think that's, I think the interesting summary here is housing prices aren't getting that much cheaper, whether you're buying and or renting on either direction. So, and then, yeah, go ahead, Mika.
I think a lot of people who rent are living places that they like, and to purchase, they would not necessarily be able to buy the same type of home. So what I'm having to do is to talk to people about real estate as the investment, and like that slide about long-term wealth gain and all those sorts of things. We have to talk to people that way, because if somebody's renting a place in Midtown in a condo, they're not necessarily going to go and be able to buy the same type of condo that they're renting once you start adding HOA fees that may be 600 plus and that sort of thing. So we really have to talk about the wealth opportunity for somebody to be able to get to understand.
Yes. And I read this the other day, and I'm going to pull it from my phone because that's what I read. The difference between the rich and the poor. This is the way the order in which they spend money. Rich people, first thing they do is they start paying for their needs, like we all need. And then the second thing they do, they take whatever their leftover money is, then they start focusing on investments. And then after they have some kind of investments going, the third thing they do is then focus on their wants. And so do I want a new boat, a new car, a new this, or, maybe I could, a need is I just need a nice car. A want is the really expensive car. So they go, just get the needs, get your investments, then you go your wants. And they said, here's what the poor would do. They first focus on what they want, then they think of their needs, and then last they prioritize the investments instead of prioritizing it higher. So I think everyone's point is like flipping that script of like, it's what it fills a need and it's an investment long term when you stay there long enough. So it may not necessarily be in every area you want, but are we playing a long-term game so you can be in the area that you want for the long term as well? So just a few thoughts. Any other else? And what I love to do the last few minutes, I think I had and I'll just take it up, not show the article. I had it about pricing home is difficult right now. That's the next thing, is knowing how to price the home. I think that we may have an interesting moment come next year about that too. I think it'll see what happens in the overall interest rate world and so forth. But anyone else feel that pricing homes right now is kind of challenging? Mika again? Anyone else?
It's definitely a moving target. I mean, it's like down to the minute, down to the neighborhood, down to the street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just had to hold off putting the listing on Friday because someone in the building came on the market at a higher price point than we ever expected, but we really couldn't support the comps. So, it's just a lot of speculation and it's just a lot of movement. So I told my seller, we're gonna just see what happens with this unit to see what's happening. And then we'll price it accordingly and move forward. But it's
So
definitely a moving target out there.
you're letting them test the market. You're
I'm
letting that
letting
high
them.
price point test it for a couple of weeks, get past probably Thanksgiving, and then
Mhm.
you go after they tested it. Are they right or are they wrong? And then you can position your home in the right price point for their sale.
Because I'm a conservative agent who looks at the comps and prices accordingly. But of course, every seller thinks that their home should be at least 10, 15,000 higher possibly. And so when this happened, I'm fighting the argument with my seller that they should not be at this higher price point. But then someone else comes on the market and does the same thing. So that's when we're like, okay, let's hold off and see who is right. If you are, then yeah, we'll price it up. But if not, then we need to price to get you sold, and that's what you want to do. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cuban, you're saying it's down to the neighborhood, down to the street, down to the minute, which probably means the timing you put it on the market. It's not a blanket statement anymore. We have to probably look very detailed to price things correctly.
Yeah, we always know that real estate is uber locals, hyper local, and for instance, in some communities there may be some streets that have been experiencing great, rehabbers and investors, and one street over completely different. And so it's just you definitely have to look at all those surrounding factors when going to market because it can really impact, the visibility and at what price that home sells.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you, when the home doesn't sell quickly, and then we have like 1 minute, and then I want to do one thing last minute. How are we share this info with our sellers about how the market is?
Well, we have a great resource here at KW. With all of our stats, you can't argue with numbers, and and that's what I make clear with my clients. These are the numbers. You can't deviate from this at all.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's like the conversation of like going, the market is very much a weekly market. It's or a monthly market. If interest rates drop, we see a little more activity. If they go up, we see it slow down. So we're having to move with it. And therefore, pricing wise, if we don't get the traffic, do we have to evaluate, is there a reason, or is it just we need to just be a little patient? So all right, so this Thanksgiving week, everyone shout out something everyone's thankful for. And first I'm going to say, man, I'm so thankful for y'all. I'm thankful to be a part of this great Heart of Atlanta group organization, KW Buckhead. And quite honestly, I'm thankful that we're going to see we have a tremendous leadership as we're going into this 2024 market. So just keep plugging in. Anyone else want to do a shout out of Thanksgiving?
Thankful that we're surviving 2023.
100%.
And we'll make it to 2024.
And we're not going to just make it, we're going to thrive in 2024. So what else? Who else wants to shout out before we close this up? Mark, you may be a little quiet, so where you are. I hear a little bit of that. That's fantastic. Anyone else?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was just saying I'm really thankful for the new agents that I've been partnered with. It's a really cool group, and we're thriving off of each other right now.
I would say this, y'all. These news agents are coming in this challenging market. They're going to be some people to watch out for in the years ahead. So they're being tested by fire. So that's always makes a good agent. So any other thing, and we're going to call it a wonderful morning. Well, y'all have a very wonderful and happy Thanksgiving. And we look forward to everyone continuing to sell. You guys still time to put people under contract the rest of the year. So we will chat soon. If you need anything, I'm around at the Buckhead office. I'm here to help you all out. Talk to you later.